Hey everybody, welcome to the Blue Collar Angst podcast, where we dive deep into the realm of any and really everything blue collar. We're going to take a look at a wide range of trades and careers that range from welders and electricians to police officers and everything in between. The guests we bring on the show, the listeners, really essentially you, are the fuel to keep this whole thing going. With that being said, please enjoy, and as always, like, subscribe, follow, do whatever it is that you do to stay up to date so that you don't miss a thing. Thanks. Enjoy the show. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Blue Collar Angst. I'm really excited for this one. We have Tierra Oso with us. Rich is the owner of that. Richard Sanchez. Ricardo, Rich, we went through all of his names earlier, and he was cool with every single one. So out of El Paso, Texas, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I mean, it's starting to get hot. Well, no, it's been hot, so I'm working through it. You know, it's fun. It's fun in the sun.
Yeah.
How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. It's hot, but no, it's good, man. I was looking through Rich's work history with Tierra Oso, some of the cool stuff that they've done. So for those of you guys that haven't heard of Tierra Oso before, go check them out on Instagram. They make some awesome stuff. Wood, metal engraving, stickers. I mean, what else do you guys do? You guys do pretty much hats, hat patches.
I do a little bit of everything. So if you don't mind, I'll do a quick backstory, I guess, on me. So I started off in the blue collar world. I am an electrician by trade, and I have about 13 years under my belt after I had graduated from Los Angeles Trade Tech College. From there, I've done a lot of random jobs. I was kind of going all over the place trying to figure out what I wanted. My dad ended up pushing me towards electrical, probably the best decision that he had ever done. In those times, I was still testing and trying new things. I was in photography, I was in film, and I got some things out on Hulu and stuff, and it was great. It was fun. But it always drove me back to the electrical trade and just blue collar world because I knew it. I grew up in it, grew up on a drop site. I'm sure a lot of us have. You know, my dad, this dad, and we're cleaning up trash on Saturdays because that's just the way it went. But as I kept searching and doing other stuff, I stumbled upon photography, which led me to promotion. So all of my company is pretty much revolving around promotional items. So it's helping out the small businesses. I've always been a huge proponent of hearing people's stories and how they got from A to B. How do they change their backyard business from the garage all the way up to a $50 million company? I love those stories. I know I've loved podcasts. I listen to this one now. And it's just great hearing it. But the cool thing about this company that I have started, I work in promotions and I get to hear those stories all the time, except for I get to be part of their journey sometimes. So, which led to the things I do. I do a lot of stuff when it comes to try to get people's name out there. It's good work will always speak for itself, but having a little bit of branding goes a long way, especially if you don't have a name on your shirt or a name on your hat or stickers. If nobody knows your name, they don't know who to call. You know, I just try to make it less steps for them to get to contact you. So that's my job, essentially putting your stuff on other stuff.
Dude, you do a good job. I followed you for a few weeks now, and Mike Ewing, episode 14, he actually showed me your page. He sent it to me. He's like, dude, this guy makes some awesome stuff. So how do you know Mike, by the way? Everybody that I've talked to in the last month is from Mike, so how do you know Mike?
I think he randomly ordered something and then reached out to me, and he was just giving me a lot of praise. And I don't really get it too much just because I like to work behind the scenes, and most of the stuff I can't post. A lot of it is either NDA or government work, but he really just kind of reached out, loved the stuff I was making, whether it was leather goods or just random things. And this guy started shouting me out. The guy is the best hype man I didn't know I needed. I was like, this guy, just the energy that this guy has, and I think I don't want to say his age, but he's a little older than me. But this guy has way more energy than I do. And I just kept going back and forth, building it up. He sent me this podcast, and that's actually how I got to know you guys. But it was a great connection. That guy's just filled with either contacts or he just knows how to talk. And he's convinced me to just keep moving forward. I thought I was going to I didn't think I was going to keep going down the leather path, but he's just like, no, dude, your stuff's good. And I was like, all right, my stuff's good. Let's go. I'm on the train.
Dude,
let's keep going.
He's 52. He said that on the podcast, so I could say that. I think he's turning 52
Okay,
this year. But yeah, I'm like the same way. I'm like, dude, I'm turning 30 this year. And I'm like, you have like 10 times the energy that I have. And he's like posting positive stuff every single day. I'm like, holy shit. Like, it's awesome. It's pretty cool.
I love reposting his stuff. I listen to everything that he posts. I was like, yeah, that's good. What do they say? When the motivation's not there, the only thing that remains is discipline. That man has been disciplined through the thick and thin of his life, and he's gotten to where he's at, and he's still grinding. It's just like, it's inspiration. Kind of like I'm sure you've heard of David Goggins and stuff like that. That man has no motivation. He's got nothing but discipline. And it's just, there's days like today, it was 103 degrees, and I'm pretty sure 1,000% humidity. And I didn't want to work in my shop because it's about 20 degrees hotter in there. But it's what I do. It's the thing I do. And that's what Mike does. That's what he does. No ands, ifs, or buts.
Dude, the cool thing about Mike, so Tyler Sassy from Western Welding Academy, he was on episode 12, and I've gotten like, if not more, like people are texting me or messaging me, and they're like, dude, that was so inspirational, like from Mike's episode. And there's like one thing I wrote in Extreme Ownership, and in the hard copy that I have of it, I write like the quotes that like mean the most things to me. One thing that Mike said was like, you can either be the example or the excuse. And kind of like you're saying with the, 103 degrees in your shop, like, what are you going to do? Like, you're going to make an excuse about it. You're going to do it. So I'm very grateful to have met him and, meet you through him. So it's just, It's wild. It's kind of cool.
No, for sure.
Let's talk about LA. Like growing up, like you mentioned a little bit about like growing up, like most people do on the job site or seeing their dad come home from a job site. What was that like for you? Like, what was your experience growing up in LA? And I feel like it could go either way, like especially in like LA, there's so much going on and different paths, but kind of talk about yours.
LA, yeah. So LA is the land of transplants. LA has adopted everyone from every other state. It's weird. And it's probably why the traffic's so bad. But growing up, when I was younger, the traffic wasn't so bad. Growing up on a job site was a little bit different for me. My dad used to work for the school board, LA Unified. So my Saturdays and sometimes Sundays were spent with him and my brother. And we would just ride bikes at the time. This was us at 10 to maybe 13 years old. And on Saturdays, we had essentially, was it the X Games course at every school? We were at a school every other weekend in a different school. So it was just like, oh, this is great. Eventually, as I was getting older, I wouldn't ride my bike so much. I'd kind of just sit in with see what my dad was doing, check out the maintenance yard as he was doing things, and just kind of, it was almost like a ride along, And my dad and both my parents work a lot, and it's just something they did, and it's something now I do. I don't see it as work. It's something it's that or sitting at home. I live a boring life, so the work's a lot more interesting for me. But as I'm growing up with him and slowly learning how to use hand tools, power tools. At the time, everything was corded still, so this is a while ago. Pretty sure I'm almost broken my hand multiple times with half of those drills. But slowly learning the safety, how to work certain, like I said, drills and power tools and all that stuff. It just kept growing from there. I'm the kid that liked Legos. Now I get to build other things that are not Legos, that can function, that can move, they can go up 20 feet in the air. It's like a weird dream. Like I get to still play with Legos that just now I'm either welding them together or gluing them together with some nails. It's a lot of stuff. And I'm just like a big kid. I wasn't the Tonka toy type of guy, but I was definitely someone that went down that same path. And it's familiar, but in a good way. It just kept growing.
That's so cool, dude. It's different, like the Tonka truck to the Legos. I was a Tonka truck kid. Like I loved just the steel ones, though, not like the plastic ones today. Like they were like the hard steel that you could like hit somebody over the head with and probably kill them, you know?
Yeah, I love them.
But
Start
the
chewing on them.
Legos, it's like your job now. I looked at some of your catalog. I mean, you had like a fire pit that looked like it was like pieced together, like super intricate. It's like a V fire pit or a grill. It looked like. Um,
Yeah.
the patience, dude. Like you have some patience. One thing I don't want to lose track of is some of the people that you've worked with. So, and if I say anything wrong, correct me. But I think the coolest one, just because I used to and still do listen to the Adam Carolla show. You've done work for Adam Carolla. You've done work for Originals, which is a dispensary or a farm, right?
Yeah, it's called the Originals Family Farms. They're one of the bigger ones out in LA. They're like the boutique dispensary, so they got a little bit more money to burn as far as what they do for promotional items. So they do some really cool stuff with them. And they order maybe quarterly, which is nice, and it's always fun to kind of collaborate with them. It's always something different, which is something I really like because maybe it's my ADHD brain or something, but I love being different. You know, it's that, and it just kind of goes with promotional stuff.
What'd you make for Adam Carolla?
So it would be odds and ends from like coasters for his Carolla's drink company that his wife that runs, or what was one of the favorite ones? He had mentioned something on on his podcast about TSA. He's always complaining about something, which is always funny. But he was complaining about something with the TSA, and I think I still have that photo on my website. That the TSA agents, as long as the label is written a certain way, they'll accept it through. And he was making a joke about a flask. If it had the 3.4 ounces on anything, that they'll just let it through because the TSA are just they're not paying attention. So I found one of those oversized flasks that you can find on Amazon, and it was me and his producer, and we thought, okay, this would be kind of funny. So we engraved right on it, and it's this gigantic flask that's bigger than my head. I think it's like 64 ounces, and I just put 3.4 ounces, and now he uses it as a prop every now and then, especially when they're doing their events and stuff. So it's kind of a funny, like just a callback for one of his jokes and stuff like that. So there's little things like that.
That's sick, dude. That's so cool, man. Let's see. Napalm, World of Electricians, Bonafide, California, Society 61. Looks like a golf company. And
Yeah.
then Full Rules, Muay Thai, Investing from the Beach. So you've done some cool stuff. I mean, I've seen your work. What kind of, you mentioned like the Legos, right? Like you have patience for this stuff and a passion, obviously. What kind of, I guess, walk me through like, and walk the audience through like, you're 18 years old, you're kind of like getting right out of high school. Like, what's your goal look like outside of electrician? Like, were you like, I'm going to go be an electrician? Like, did your dad do a lot of electrical work or?
No, so my dad is a general contractor, so he's a GC. And once he left the school board, that's what he ended up doing and doing a lot of stuff for residential, commercial, and now more government work. He had given me an option, and I'll be completely honest. I didn't know where I wanted to go. I played video games 10 hours a day throughout my high school year. I didn't do homework. I barely graduated, and my reading and writing were horrible. I honestly probably learned better reading techniques and writing in my mid 20s. It was that bad. I barely graduated. I don't know how I graduated. I think I just copied off the right people for our homework and tests. I didn't know where I wanted to go. And in my family, that's not really a good excuse to not keep going. So my dad gave me an option in trade tech. The three main trades that they teach there is plumbing, um, framing, and like general construction and electrical. I thought, oh, okay, well, electrical looks clean. Doesn't look like I'll get dirty at all. So I'm going to go to that one. Was I wrong? But it was a good kick in the ass that I needed. It was, I mean, think back. I mean, think only 10 years ago for yourself. You were 19. You couldn't. Your head was so far up your ass you couldn't figure it out. But at the same time, you knew everything. That was me. My dad pushed me to that, and all of a sudden, I went from C/D average to like straight A's, and I was just like, "This is weird. This is not something I thought I'd like." All of a sudden, it just came easy. And then all of a sudden, I started learning trigonometry. I was like, I think I get as far as like geometry. I don't. I think I hit the limit of how many times you can fail algebra 2. And all of a sudden now I'm learning trigonometry, and I was like, okay, this is easy. I can figure this out, blah, blah, blah. And it was crazy because I just kept pushing it. But the number one thing that I think was different, and I'm assuming it's the same thing for you that was in high school, is it was like the lab work. Oh, I can touch something. I can physically build something. And then it just went back to that Lego brain in me. And I just started building things, and I would build systems. I would troubleshoot. I would hook up motors. I would install transformers. And all of a sudden this thing just like, oh man, this is fun. I was like, but if I go wrong, it could blow up. This is still fun. There's a little bit of a danger factor. And out of the trades, usually most people go into like an apprenticeship. I went straight into working with my father. And in California, I could work under his license and stuff like that. And it helped me kind of build my own thing because now I didn't really have a guide. So this is pretty much sets the table for most of my life is I didn't have a guide. I'm the oldest of my brothers and sisters. There's nobody before me. It's just me. Going into my dad's company, it was a lot of, hey, I need a switch here. And I'm thinking back, I was like, okay, well, residential code book this. And I realized, oh shit, I didn't know how to do it. And then I had to look up videos. And this was, I think YouTube was still new at the time. And it was just, there was not too many videos out there. So I had to start asking. I had to ask everybody I could find how to do things and grow from there. It was just, then it just kept getting compounded of things. Oh, I fucked up that. You better go fix it. Till the fuck ups got minimal, less, a little bit less, a little bit less. And then all of a sudden I became proficient at this thing. And I also forgot what question you asked. Yeah.
Dude, I was just listening. I forgot what question I asked too. It's cool
This
though.
is
Like,
ADHD.
yeah,
It'll take you on a ride. I don't know where we're going, but we're going to go there.
Dude, that's why when you said code book, I went off on like left field. I was like, oh, I wonder how thick the California code book is. Like what the hell? Why am I thinking about that?
That's how we do a follow-up question.
Yeah.
No, I forgot what the question was, but I think it was getting started from Legos to this.
Yeah. Well, that answers it though, man. Like that's cool that your dad and to work on your dad like that, like the freedom or the latitude that you had. Not a lot of people get that, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was a sink or swim type of moment for sure. Especially the fact that if I messed up, I had to go fix it. I couldn't rely on anybody else. I'm the one pulling wire. I'm the one installing. I'm the one talking to the client about it. And it was just kind of a huge learning curve. So something that I guess in an apprenticeship is sometimes 5 years long, depending if you're going to the union and stuff. I had to learn everything in a year and a half, and then just learning as I go, obviously having a reference of things I couldn't do with the code book. But what taught me, and I think it's taught a lot of contractors, and even I see it with Mike too, is it really doesn't teach you how to do a trade as much as problem solve. That's all the trades are, is getting really good at problem solving. I don't know if that's something in your experience as well.
Yeah, I think I heard a quote once. I think it might have been Ed Milet or Bradley, but it was the same idea where it's like successful people, they're just really good at problem solving, right? They look at a problem that comes up and they're like, okay, what's the solution? And I'm kind of that way, like with the podcast or at work, right? Like I'm like, if there's a problem, I feel like I thrive in those. My wife would disagree because she sees the editing or like the mishaps that happen with audio or whatever. And, I can get lost in it. But yeah, dude, I mean, I think, just being able to adapt and change, that's huge. And you probably found that still with, Tierra Oso since starting that with your own business.
So yeah, so the electrical spawned off a lot of failed businesses on my end. Not realizing that it was me that was failing at it versus blaming everybody else type of thing. That's your 20s, learning that you don't know anything. And then that's when the real learning begins, is when you realize you don't know shit. But that's a great position. You can either keep going down that path and blaming other people for your mishaps, or you can start changing your ways, changing your mindset, start changing this. And it's almost like you're getting a rebirth. It's, oh crap, I can do this because I learned this. Well, I'm not really good at this, but someone's good at it. Better go find out what they know and then consume everything I could possibly do. Even what you're doing now. The greatest thing about this podcast is that at episode 200 or 1,000, you'll be that much smarter because you've talked to that many problem solvers who you probably in your life in that week at this moment, driving down the street, and all of a sudden, oh man, they're just mentioning something, some little nugget, some takeaway aha moment. And all of a sudden you're, oh man, this is eye opening. This is going to change, not everything, change something. And it's kind of like, it's like this conversation. It's going to go everywhere, but it's slowly course correcting on your life, because there's no straight line to success. It's always that, but it's that ping. Oh crap. Am I doing right? I'm getting too far in my ego. Oh no. Oh shoot. Yeah. You're doing this wrong. Oh, it's a constant stream of messing up. But if you're learning from it, it's that trajectory, that trend is always going to go up.
I was going to say, it's funny because like you said, like that's your 20s, right? Like, and it's so, I remember doing cabinets. It's so true. I'd go if it wasn't a remodel or a new build, it'd be, sometimes the customers or the homeowners would be there, and which I liked. Like, it was cool to talk to them. But I just look back now and like, if you don't know something I wish I could have told myself then, it's like, just own up to it and be like, I don't know, but let me find out. And I would just come up with bullshit. Like, they'd be like, hey, is that squared? Is this okay? Yeah. It's okay. Yeah. It's so this, and like, I just make some bullshit up, And I think that's crazy though. It's like that, like you said, like the ping on the chart. Like for me, especially in these interviews, just the honesty that people have. I think that's why there's such a positive response, because people are real. And that's one reason I started this, was because I was like, you know what? Like there's so many people out there, like, not to, like Joe Rogan, for example. I love the Joe Rogan experience. Like his podcast is awesome. There's so many other podcasts, and they interview just like, I felt like people that I couldn't relate to, like somebody that was like super either successful, wealthy, or, came from the riches kind of thing. And, not that that's all their interviews, but I was like, dude, what about everybody else? Like, what about the dude that's driving down the interstate right now, that's going to work at 5 a.m., right? Like I am. Like, what about them? Like, what about their perspective? So it's cool. Like, I do feel very grateful, like even just this conversation, dude, like what we talked about before we started recording. And now it's like, it's so cool to be able to do that.
It's great. It's the course correcting. It's learning how to learn. I think that for me was the biggest thing, is in my 20s, which was the biggest hurdle, was learning how to learn. I don't like to share it, but I have a learning disability. ADHD may be a joke, but it has something. Yeah, I just can't sit. For the life of me, I got to go. And if I'm not working at least 30 hours in a single day, I can't fall asleep. It's just the way it is. But it's the hardest thing, even like I was telling, I don't know, we were recording at the time, but not knowing how to learn in high school, and not learning how to read well, not learning how to do pretty much anything well, that learning how to learn changed everything. It's a humbling experience of like, oh man, I'm really dumb. It's hard, a hard long look at the fucking mirror, because it's, man, you're really dumb. Like, you're good at video games, that doesn't mean anything. There was no Twitch at the time. There was no influencers at the time. It just, there's work you do on the computer, or work you do all with your hands. And that was the only options at the time. And I was like, well, I'm good at this, but it's not making money. So I might as well go learn how to do work with my hands. It did change a lot. It changed everything. Now it's a hard problem of stopping myself from learning new stuff.
Right. Well, dude, I think that's kind of part of ADHD too. I I think I don't know what the difference is between ADD and ADHD, but I think it's like less fidgetiness. I don't know, but I have one of those two things. But it's the same thing, dude. Where it's like in school when you're talking about like not being good at like geometry. I think I didn't fail geometry, but I didn't do very good in it. But like I barely graduated, but like my best class was English, right? Because I was interested in English or like in the like formation of writing an essay, right? Like what made a good essay, which is weird and random, but I think that's part of ADHD, dude. Like getting lost in whatever it is that you're really truly like electrical work for you, or like for me right now, like honestly, like the podcast, like I can just go off, or like guitar. I can just play guitar, and my wife cannot stand it because I just like tune everything out and I'll just play for ever, you know? So, but yeah, I think that's part of
Yeah,
ADHD, which I don't know. That's why I think it's important to find what you're passionate about, though, right? Because like then you can exceed at something.
that's the beauty of today. That's the greatest time about today is there's so many options. That's also the worst part about today is there's so many damn options. It's not 31 flavors anymore. It's 1,523 flavors. Now pick your favorite one, and you're like, I want to try them all, or oh, I really just like this one. Like, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, but I once I got really good at something, I don't want to do it anymore. And it's not that I don't want to do it anymore. I just don't want the repetition of it anymore because I got good at it. If you're practicing on your guitar, but you're strumming only three strings, what if you get really good at strumming those three strings? Now, can you do that for the next 10 years? Just those three strings? No. It's like I'm going to pull my hair out, what's left of my hair. But this time is great. For me, it was compounding of like electrical, photography, videography, being in the film industry for a little while, um, doing a little bit of acting at Halloween Horror Nights. All of a sudden led me to what I'm doing now because I made contacts along the way. I learned skills along the way. I learned how to problem solve along the way. And all of a sudden now I'm doing something I really, really enjoy. I'm I I might be doing this for the next 10 years. I might only be doing it for the next 5. I don't know. But right now I'm really, really enjoying what I'm doing because it's so much fun to me. I've had a lot of people ask me why I stopped electrical. I stopped a couple years ago as I'm transitioning to Tierra Oso. I still have one foot in the door. I have a few guys that call me back to kind of to go do some work every now and then, but just to kind of keep myself fresh. New codes are coming out every year anyway. But this new path is fun for me. It's still kind of in the blue collar world as far as like this some of the products I do develop, besides just like basic promotional items like arm pads and NEC keychains that I make. Actually, that's what got me started. Was those key? I don't know if you happen to stumble upon those keychains on maybe my AC or something. That's what got me started. I still remember 2020 Memorial Weekend. I thought I was getting canceled because all of a sudden I had over 1,000 messages in my inbox on my DMs and Instagram. I'm thinking, what did I say? Did I say something bad? What did I do wrong? And I couldn't. It kept refreshing so much I couldn't read a lot of those messages. And then we started realizing I was like, people wanted to buy something I wasn't selling, and I was thinking, what had happened? Turns out, I think you had mentioned it before. World of Electricians is an online Instagram page. They post memes and artwork and stuff like that. They just happened to repost one of my charts, and it went viral in the electrical community. And it was just a reference guide. It was mostly because my apprentice was harassing me because he didn't want to open the code book, even though he should have just went to go open the code book to look up the references and stuff. I've memorized a few things, but you don't have to memorize everything. There's a book for it. No need to memorize everything. I made a little keychain, took a picture of it, gave it to him, and I just posted it. And at this point, I had like maybe 100 followers on my Instagram. And my Instagram, for those that didn't know, had nothing to do with what I'm doing now. It just once I blew up, I had to keep the name, and we just kept running. But I made that chart, and in the height of the pandemic, had to figure out how to fulfill over 600 orders that we had on a Monday. It was a very weird time.
What'd that feel like waking up on Monday and just being like, whoa, people like this was that like your very first like thought of like, dude, maybe I could make something out of this, or was this already kind of in the background somewhat?
So originally I purchased I was doing cutting boards. That was my thing. I was doing some woodworking, some cutting boards on LA, and I had purchased a CNC router. That was my very first step into the CNC realm. I don't know why my wife let me, but I bought a $1,200 CNC router from Inventables. Inventables? I forgot their name. I think it's Inventables. And I just started playing around with it. I love the software. It was easy. I could do design and stuff on Illustrator, and I was just plugging and play. But I figured out it was very limited on what it can do. And then I started getting into lasers. First laser I started researching was the Glowforge. And I don't know how my wife let me do this one, but it was about $5,500. So I sold the other one and I purchased this one. I had only had it for about a month and maybe a week. I had made that chart. Memorial Day weekend happens. By the end of that weekend, I had sold that Glowforge because it wouldn't keep up with the demand. And I had to buy 2 new industrial machines. So all of a sudden I went from router to laser to 2 giant lasers, and it just kept growing. At this point, I have maybe about 10 different type of lasers in my shop. So I might be obsessed, or I have a problem, and someone needs to stop me because my wife certainly hasn't.
That's freaking cool though. That's so random, man. Like, so you're still being an electrician, right? At this time, you're still doing the electrical work?
Yeah. So I was still working with my father. So I had worked with him solely. With that, doing side work, everyone's done it. And it started picking up. And this was probably 2019 when it started really picking up for me. But I was making really, really good money. And I don't know if on my new sharing some numbers and stuff like that, now that I'm out of it.
Yeah, dude, go for it.
At the time I was pricing myself, and it was me and just an apprentice. I was charging about $85 an hour, which sounds, even now, it's still pretty high, and most, even prevailing wage or any union stuff, they're making between 50 and I think 75 even now. So I was like, well, I don't know where this arrogance came out of, but I was charging $85 an hour. And I was getting so busy, I had to charge more to drop off some of the other clients that were my first clients and stuff. And I'd take care of them every now and then, but the demand was getting so high where I was eventually charging about 150 just for me. That doesn't include the business, the van that I was driving, my apprentice, just solely me. I was charging myself at $150 an hour, and I was busy. I was really busy, and it was just me. And sometimes I'd get another apprentice. So it would be 3 of us. But I was getting to that point where I was like, oh, this is great. And I saved a lot of money. That's also what helped buy the first investment of these machines. Eventually, like you said, you were asking if that was like the first eye-opening moment of like the next step. The step of like, should I charge more, was when I had too many clients, I had to charge more to drop some of them off. That step of Memorial Weekend was really kind of the first aha moment. I was like, oh, this can be something else. This was fun. I was doing it out of my 200 square foot garage, and I was like, okay, I think this is possible. So I started the transition. I don't really, if you can kind of start from the shallow end and work your way to the deep end, might as well. There's no reason to always jump into the deep end. I did that exactly with this. I started still doing electrical work. So from about 7 in the morning to about 5 or 6 in the day, I would do electrical work. And as orders started picking up for Tierra Oso, I would get home around 6-ish or so, and I would work from about 6 to 1 or 2 in the morning. And I did this for about a year and a half. It was a long year and a half. There were some days I would sleep a little bit more. Some days I wouldn't, but it was getting contracts like the Carolla. the originals, Napalm. I think Napalm is Exhibit's company, the rapper. I don't know if you're familiar with Exhibit. The guy, Pimp My
Oh,
Ride.
okay. Yeah.
So I did a few jobs for him, and it just kept just like electricals, word of mouth. You start producing good work, it'll speak for itself. Same problem I'll have here is I get getting more clients and stuff, and it was just getting my name out there, and then slowly started building. If I started charging $150 an hour to these people that don't know who I am or have no repertoire, I would still be trying to charge $150 and still working for my dad's company at the moment, and I'll be back in LA. Because I didn't do that, it was like that slow starting at the shallow end, working your way to the deep end. There's plenty of time. It's the longest thing we're going to do is live. So might as well just take your time and learn as you go. But if I'm making mistakes at $150 an hour, those are real mistakes, versus charging like, 25 an hour. It's a very different, the stakes are a little different.
Yeah. You can't bullshit your way. You can't bullshit like $150 an hour, right? Like,
Yeah,
yeah, it has to be
you,
spot on.
you really can. I got to be in there and out, and usually the speed got faster. The reference I always like to use is the ceiling fan. I remember installing my first ceiling fan. It took me 4 hours to do. Now I could get it under 30 minutes. As long as if there's even the same one and I'm doing like 10 of them and they're the exact same fan, I could do it even faster. But that first one took me 4 hours, and it was, I think I was charging maybe $30 at a time. So that's $120 I charged for it. And now by the last time I was doing it, it was charging $150. So I charged more and it took me less time. That's experience. That's trust. Like the client, even if they've never worked for you, they've talked to somebody. And everything I did was always word of mouth, and I would still kind of advertise. I had my stuff on my shirts and stuff like that. So they know, oh, okay, this person rolled up. Oh, they have a name on the side of their van. Oh, they look professional. They look good. You still have to keep on an appearance for that, but it just kept snowballing. That ball kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger as you just keep, like anything, progressing. Even now, 200 square feet to 5,000 square feet. It's very slow, but well, slowish. I mean, I started this journey in 2020 and the 2023.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm losing track of time, and I'm already in a warehouse. It's very weird. They almost got the bends when I did it. And I was just like, what the heck? Should I be doing this? This feels weird. But it's that progression. It's slow. Everyone's seen these YouTube videos of like their highlight reel, but you start finding good gems. People are like, oh man, we started at a farmer's market, and now we're this. Now we're in the Whole Foods. Now we're at this, and it's just like, okay, so it's just always you're gonna have to learn how to crawl before you learn how to walk. I mean, to run. Everyone wants that instant success, and I've never seen a good thing happen when that happens. It's like winning the lotto. Can you win the lotto again? No, probably not. Can you keep doing it year to year? No, probably not. But you could build a company that's like winning the lotto. It's essentially just learning a lot of other skills and mindset and all that stuff to just keep going.
Yeah. I think it's cool. It makes me think of like, I always say this, me and my wife were talking last week about, like soulmates, right? Like it sounds kind of weird, but it's like, I really feel like there's like one person that you're like supposed to be with. But then I feel like there's like a few, like there's probably 3 or 4 other options that like, that could work, and you still have a really good life. It's kind of like that with like your career or your business, man. Like your passion. Like I feel like everybody has a path or a passion that they're supposed to be doing. But then there's like 3 or 4 other things where it's like, yeah, you could do that too, So it's just about finding and like honing in. And I think the biggest thing I'm learning through the podcast is like the association, right? Like who are you surrounding yourself with? Like if you were surrounding yourself with like, I don't know, dude, like pick some random dudes, like a painter. I bagged on painters once. I'm not bagging on them again, but like some dude at a job site and you're just, he's into drugs or whatever, right? And like you chose to put yourself around that. But I mean, like being around your dad, like that probably did like hold you to a higher standard. Like him being a GC, you had a lot of like responsibility. So I just think like the association and the networking and that probably brought it to a different level for you. I'm guessing.
I was very fortunate. There's a lot of other kids that I've met, and I mean, other than the shortage of contractors or plumbers and everything like that, the one that I always kept meeting were, I'm the son of the contractor. Well, I became son of the contractor around 20 years old, 1920. But being the son of the contractor doesn't mean you get. It's hard to explain. It's like you get all the perks of being the boss, but also you get all the bad stuff plus more for not being the boss because you're not the boss. It's all of a sudden I got thrusted into a supervisor position, and everybody else is way more qualified than me. And I try to not have an ego with it, but or power trip at all. But it was always like, hey guys, like this is just relaying information from my dad to you guys. For me, it was the company first because this is also feeding me. These guys are just coming in, and this was our livelihood. So I kind of understood that going in when I started working with my father. In that, besides the fact of nobody else training me with electrical, that streamlined everything. All of a sudden, I was a little bit more proficient at 22 than everybody else. And that was the fortunate side. I had some room, just like everybody else, to fail at stuff, and I failed a lot. But the growth for me really came from just ownership of things. If my dad called me out on something I messed up on, I just said, "You're right. I'm going to go fix it. I'll go right after work, and I'll go fix it." I could have gone during work. I could have got it done and got paid while fixing a mistake that I did. But I went after work, and then I went to go fix it, to go learn how to fix something. So I'm not doing it on my dad's dime. It was prioritizing the company over myself. And that was the first lesson that I kind of learned with that. And that was what streamlined as far as like how lucky I got with that. It's putting the team. Were you ever into sports, or did you ever do any sports?
I played football and I wrestled in high school. I played baseball when I was a kid, but then all the baseball kids were douchebags in high school. So
Yeah. It's either way, you learn to be on a team. It's not just you. It's what can I do? It's what can we do? Those conversations started happening. It's like, oh, what's the raise I can get? What's the raise that we can all get? Well, if we all start getting better at this, we can all make more. I tell my apprentices that all the time. I said, I want to pay you more money. I have every incentive to pay you more money, but you have to hit these types of marks. You need to be proficient within this year at this thing. If you're not, I can't give you a raise. I can't even leave you alone. Like, I don't need to babysit you. And I've lost a lot of apprentices because of it. And I don't think I'm a mean guy. I let them fail. I let them do stuff. But when you start doing the same mistake 5 or 6 times, it's kind of hard to keep you around. You're costing me money. You're also costing the other guys money because you're slowing everyone down.
well, dude, that's it. Sorry, go ahead. Finish that thought.
No, if you're not a team player, it's really hard to get ahead in anything.
Yeah, dude, that's those lessons that you learned at like 22, like being the one in charge, right? Being the supervisor, like owning, being the boss's son, that is not a popular position, right? Like anywhere, I don't think, especially in the trades. And
No.
I don't know, that's like a lesson that you learned young. And then like even just take out being a boss, but like being the electrician, you're like the guy, you're the electrician on the site. And these homeowners are looking at you like you're a young 22-year-old kid. They're probably, because I know I got looks like that just doing cabinets, like putting up crown molding or like an island, a fancy island. They look at me like, do you even know what you're doing? And I'm like, oh, it's funny.
And you blow them away when you do it. That's the thing. I have some other stuff. I don't know if you do side work and blah, blah, blah. And it's that snowball effect. The other thing I really did learn from my father, it's a shame they're never going to teach this. They can't. It's just kind of real world experience. But the one thing I did learn from my father is that I couldn't understand at the time was he would befriend other general contractors. It's like, aren't you bidding against them? Aren't they the guys that that you want to win a contract from, whether it's from the school board, residential, this and that. And he had told me one thing, and I thought, everybody at the bottom competes. Everybody at the top collaborates. So all those guys at the top, they think a little different. So just because he's maybe your competition, they could also be a partner. If you can't take on this job, but you really like this client, hey, I got someone that's going to take care of you. We all win. You gave a great reference, and they got exactly what they wanted, and they'll think of you regardless. It's the same thing.
That's so profound though, dude. Like just like the teams thing, like that applies perfectly with like the team stuff that you were just talking about earlier. Like that's cool. And like that, the wisdom though, man, like it just makes me think, Tyler Sassy said this. He said, strong fathers and mothers create strong sons and daughters. Right. And like we were talking about like the next generation. And, I had a conversation today with a buddy about how different it is. Like just asking his kid to like go mow the lawn. Right. 16-year-old, hey, can you go mow the lawn? And like the level of ownership, and it's so crazy and it's so important. Do you have kids?
No, not yet.
Not yet?
Hopefully in a couple of years or so, but no, not yet.
Not yet. I have a little 5-year-old girl and a little boy on the way, but
Congratulations.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I think about it though, dude. It's like it's a huge responsibility, but it's like I think like the social setting was totally different. Like growing up, like you're 32, right? Like growing up back then, I feel like it was just different. Like the cell phones thing or like playing outside, like, but I don't know. I don't know how you change that as a whole. I always say, take care of your own kind of thing. I've always said that, and I'm learning, I'm just a dumb caveman, like Joe Rogan says, but I'm learning. It's like, dude, that's not what it's about. It's about bringing other people up around you too.
Yeah. The first thing I did when I got to El Paso, it's about about a couple days ago, a full year that I've been here in El Paso. I've already established my business within certain parts of the community. The first thing I did was looked up all the other laser engravers and cutters in my area, whether it was the alloy cutters or the ones that are just doing plastics and woods and stuff. I looked them up, and within that first week, I was introducing myself. Hey guys, I'm here. I do overflow. I do anything you guys do orders. Most people I know can take on a tumbler order. They could take on an order for maybe like 50 to 100 bucks. Great. When you guys are getting to that point, I could do the orders for 250 to 5,000 if you want. I have the capabilities to do that stuff. Like, not only that, I gave them reassurance that I'm not trying to steal their clients in any way. I said, I'm here as a helping hand. So if someone says, can you do 500 tumblers? You say, yes, you can, because you know the guy. And my job is a lot of the time is doing white label. I don't know if you're familiar with that term. Mm-hmm. So for anybody who doesn't, white labeling is I'm someone like me, they'll hire, and I'll either deliver it as a drop shipping type of option or directly to their brick and mortar. But I have none of my labels on it. As a matter of fact, nobody needs to know that I make. That's where I like to live. But that's the first thing I thought was, oh, great, I have other partners here. They just don't know me yet. And that's the mentality I went. I invited them all to my shop to do the whole thing. And a lot of them, guess what, are calling me now. Hey, can you take on one of our lasers is down? Can you take on this order? Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I work Sundays. I work a lot. So it was that immediate action. But keep in mind, there was also people that did not want anything to do with it. And that's okay. I got sent to hell in a handbasket. I have texts that I didn't save them, but like I had people just telling me a very nice way to go fuck myself.
Right.
And it was okay. I had it. I grew that thick skin being the boss's son. I don't need to worry about them. I don't need to either bring them down either. I won't ever mention they'll just, that's the thing. They'll never be brought up. And I've seen a lot of those come and go really quick because they're competing.
That's so profound. I love that though. Like it's so true. People at the bottom compete, right? And at the top you collaborate. Today's cabinet memories are just flooding my mind when you're talking, probably because it's your 20s and, up until now. But, I remember a local cabinet shop. And, where I lived at the time, there was like 4 or 5 different cabinet shops. And we were all in competition with each other. And I remember one of them had burned down. So I can't remember what happened, but it was something to do with, I don't know if their filtration system was bad, or, with the sawdust. But it ended up burning down. And we didn't have a very big shop, this company that I worked for. And I was just an installer. I was learning how to install cabinets. We'd drive all over. We'd go to like Idaho, Salt Lake, wherever, Wyoming. And I remember we didn't have room. We were so tight for room. And then my boss, Dave Lund for River Mill Cabinets, and he said, "Hey, we can help you guys out," because they still had customers, right? So it's that same idea where it's like, we're not competing. Let me help you out. Let me collaborate. And so it's kind of cool. They rebuilt, like the insurance took care of all that for that other cabinet shop that burned down. But literally, man, like in that, it's just that growing up mentality, that grid point path, like you mentioned earlier. Like in the moment, I was just thinking, why are we helping them? Why are we helping the competition? Like we could get that work, like in my head. And then hearing my boss explain it to me, and like now understanding, I'm like, wow, like what a cool, that collaborative effort was just little lessons like that. I think that's what makes us up, right? That's what makes our character up. And, you're not born perfect, but you learn these things, you meet these people, you have these conversations, and that's how you grow those little nuggets. I think you called them earlier.
That's the beauty of it. It's those aha moments, the difference between knowing something and understanding something. You knew you were helping these people out, but I don't know why. But when that why came, oh, okay. Oh, we help people. We help. That's just it. The same thing with the deadliest catch. All those guys are talking shit about each other. All this, they're saying at the bar, we're going to get more, blah, blah, blah. We're going to this and that. All of a sudden, one guy goes down. All of them swarm to go help that guy. Anybody that would just to fall off. It's well, the ship's sinking. Well, we're all going. Who's the closest guy? Without a thought.
Yeah.
Okay. Why not? It's just I think it's just a better way to live. It's I don't know. It's fulfilling, I guess. I think that was a thing that was kind of missing with me, but like it's that fulfilling feeling of when you actually do it versus being told to do it. You were told you're going to help this company out. Then you eventually hit that mark where you're like, you'll have that moment where, should I help this guy? And once you make that decision, and if you do it, it'll be a good feeling. I have another cutting partner out here. He does plasma cutting. I use lasers. He does plasma. I do some of his work overflow, especially if it's got to be a little more detailed. I'll make this the story quick, but I submitted a quote for a display to be built. I apparently came in about 4 or 5 times the amount that they had allotted for. And I thought, okay, well, I'm sorry, like that's the price of the materials. I could deliver the materials, but I can't, I won't be able to build anything for you because it is what it was. They said, thank you. Never talk again. All right, whatever. 2 weeks after I had submitted that bid, I had somebody that I went to go talk to and introduce myself to. Says, hey man, I have a bid. I have a problem. I got to do these displays and I need a portion of it cut. I said, okay, well, I can help you. Sends over the files, and it was the exact files I bidded for. So I guess they ended up still paying me because it's not that I didn't charge them what I would have charged the other company because I was helping him out because he kind of got bid into that one portion of what they had allotted for. And I said, well, I'll help you out. I said, I'm going to help me cover the cost of the materials and a little bit of the cutting fees and stuff, and I'll help you out. I didn't ask for a favor or anything. It's just, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to get this thing done. They said no to me, but whatever. It's still got to get done. You said okay to it. Next time, don't say okay to it, so we don't have to go through this problem. But that's a lesson learned.
Yeah.
But now he knows that I will help him. That's all. That's all I need. It's that trust. That's the most important thing, especially in this field, any field, is that trust. Now that I've helped this guy, he knows. Hopefully, he knows that I'm here to help any other time. when there's a bigger project or they think of them, or, hey man, I need these things. God, I can't do them right now. Why don't you take on the thing? Okay, sure. It might, it only paying dividends, helping people, and I like people that work. It's, I've helped I'm one of those guys that's a pushover. I've just learned how to get paid for it now. I'm a people pleaser. Just learning. I finally learned how to charge people for being a people pleaser.
Yeah. Dude, that's like, it makes me think like salt of the earth, right? Like you hear that term, you get thrown around, but it's some of the best people I could think of from job sites or just my life. That humble aspect, like you didn't get the job. You could have been a douchebag. You could have been prideful, right? The opposite of humility. But just that humility is huge. And like pride is a weakness. I heard that one time, like I can't remember who said it, but it just hit me. And it was like every time I get offended or stupid about something, and like that's our natural tendency to be prideful about certain things, or at least it's mine. And just taking that step back, I think getting the life experience, the bigger perspective, and keeping an account of all those little life lessons, that's huge. So that's cool, man. Why
Yeah.
why Tierra Oso? What's I called it Terroso to one of my friends at
Oh, that's
work,
cool too.
and he was like, "What's Terroso mean?" I'm like, "It's Spanish." And dude, he speaks Spanish too, and he was like, "Let me see." And I was trying to look up Terroso on Instagram, we couldn't find it. And I went to like I went to Mike Ewing's page and I found you and hit follow. But anyways, he's like, "That's Tierra Oso, dude." I think it means like red bear or something like that. That's what he said?
So Tierra Oso, like I said, it was I was doing cutting boards and stuff. So I was working a lot of stuff with like woodworking, and also I was doing like plants and stuff on the side. It was literally just a page of just posting some gardening stuff I was doing at my own house as I was kind of like remodeling it. I would just post updates and stuff like that's the whole page. Tierra just means earth, dirt. And then also I thought, oh, okay, also because of on our state flag is the bear. So if you can see my logo, it's the same bear, just in a geometric pattern. So those are the two words I had just come up with. They were at the time just a kind of a placeholder for another name, and I had already changed it. I think like 10 times at this point because I had like 80 people following me, so it didn't matter. It's not like people were searching for me. Until that Memorial weekend, and then all of a sudden, oh, I can't change it. But the name kind of stuck. It's if anything, I might change it in the future, or just keep it the same way, or just shorten it to like Oso, which just means bear. So I just, and I'm hairy enough at this point, so maybe I should just keep it that or Sasquatch. I don't know. A lot of people keep calling me Sasquatch.
Yeah, I like the name Tierra Oso. Now I know what it is. Like Terroso. I'll forever remember that. I'm like, no, dude, it's freaking Terroso. Like arguing with him. Oh,
yeah.
Dude, why El Paso? So I don't know, not to bring that back in, but like, why'd you move from LA to El Paso? Is it just like Texas is way cheaper than LA. I'm right. But
so me and my wife, for a while, we were deciding we wanted to leave LA. We were even thinking Colorado, so we would have been neighbors at one point, maybe.
Nice.
We were like at Denver, Boulder, I think Colorado Springs, if I'm not mistaken. I was kind of pushing for Colorado Springs just because of a TV show I used to watch, but I don't think I'll mention it.
Homicide Hunter? That's
a TV
no. On Hulu.
I'm a sci-fi guy, so it's called Stargate.
Is that based in the Springs?
Yeah, technically off of the Cheyenne Mountain. There's a base up there.
Yeah, NORAD,
so
right?
It's supposed to be a secret base and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, I want to go to Colorado Springs for no reason. But it was beautiful to have, I think the Mountain of the Gods or something like that.
Garden of the Gods, yeah.
Garden of the Gods.
There.
So cool.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, this place is kind of nice. But the reason we had chosen El Paso is my family is from El Paso and Juarez, Mexico. So that was one reason. Another reason was my wife. She's got a mom that's starting to get a little on the advanced stages of Alzheimer's, and by just happen chance, my brother-in-law happened to move here. A lot easier for us to move here because we didn't have any kids, and we were the one primary caregivers for my mother-in-law, and versus for him to uproot his family and his kids when they were in school, move to LA. So we're like, you know what, we can do this. So we decided, well, I'm here every Christmas. Why might as well just stay this time. So we decided to do that. And I was like, well, not many people know this, but I have already restarted my life like 3 times in the last 3 years. And this last time was moving to El Paso. So it was going full time with electrical, then immediately stopping that to go do Tierra Oso in 2021, and then stopping that again to go move and then restart the company again from scratch. So I just restart like 3 times in the last 3-ish years, starting at 2020.
Wow.
But El Paso just was nice because it helps with the business and stuff like that. But I could also ship anywhere. The internet's great for me. Whether I'm engraving linen pliers, making arm pads, it doesn't matter. I could be in I don't know, in the middle of a ranch somewhere in Texas, and the internet opens up that world where I can just ship products anywhere. So it didn't really matter to me. So I was like, okay, well, I mean, it's definitely a change. It's a slower pace. Now I take Sundays off, which is weird because I mean, LA, it's very much the rat race.
Yeah.
You're working Monday through Sunday so you can live. So moving out here was an eye-opening thing because things aren't open on Sundays most of the time, and things close early on Saturdays and Fridays, and it's weird. But it's kind of forced me to slow down. You had mentioned you have a kid and one on the way. I don't know how to say this. I guess I'm going back a little bit, but yeah, the responsibility of this of like taking care of my wife, who is full time caregiver for my mother-in-law, and then I have my brother-in-law who's helping me with the business and stuff. I have a lot of people that rely on me. It's not something I had in LA. I got married and I had someone that relied on me. My mother-in-law was still um, doing things for herself and stuff at the time. So it was just like, well, it's just me and my wife. Like, we do whatever we want. As I'm growing into this, like the responsibility and stuff of getting out here was really nice because now all of a sudden people depended on me. I have to do the things I have to do, and starting over wasn't too hard. So even coming to El Paso, I was gonna make it work no matter what. That's it. I'm not gonna fail. I'm not allowed to. I'm not giving myself that out. Same reason why I woke up this morning. Same reason why you woke up this morning. Winning is going to look very different for different people, but what I'm going to keep doing is growing this company to take care of the people who I'm responsible for. So those I started over for the third time. It wasn't too bad moving to El Paso. Like I said, I immediately introduced myself to people. I'm already part of a vendor in the community college, the local stadium. I'm starting to get talks with. There's a lot of stuff. There's also a fort out here, Fort Bliss, that I'm eventually going to reach out to. But it's that mindset of like, I'm going to succeed no matter what.
Dude, that's so. Yeah, there's no other option, right? I was just gonna say, just to add to what you said, man. Like when your back's against the wall, right? Like my wife, she's been a stay-at-home mom, the last 5 years, and she will be, with our son. But that's one of those things, dude, where it's like there's sacrifices that came with that. But just like with you, man, like it's just not an option, right? To not take care. And you mentioned your mother-in-law. Like Alzheimer's is a terrible. My grandpa had that, and I saw a little bit of it, but I was like 11. I was young. I don't really remember much, but like what I remember was like forgetting how to swallow food sometimes, or like wandering off. Like he got lost a lot. I remember that. But yeah. I mean, that's to take on that responsibility, man. And I mean, I'm sure your wife's super grateful for that. Like to take that on. Yeah,
I do hope so. I'm doing and working my ass off because in a way I owe a lot to my mother-in-law too. She She's given us a lot. When I first met her, it's tough seeing her this way because she's not the same woman I met, when I first met my wife. It's just one of those diseases. And I think you got the tail end of it. It's a slow exit from reality. Very slow. My grandma passed away from that same disease. Her mother's mother and her mother's mother's mother. It's just very prominent I think, just in the Hispanic community for some reason. But it's everywhere. For me, I was just surrounded by it. So I just knew I had to do this. Unfortunately, with my mother-in-law, as she had to kind of retire from her job because they were already kind of seeing the signs of like early onset Alzheimer's. So I had kind of made a decision in my head, like, oh, okay, I'm gonna try to work as hard as I can and make as much money as I possibly can, so I can give my wife those moments. And every day is a challenge. Like yesterday was tough as far as what she was sharing with me. I don't think I'm going to share it here, but it's just those moments. But at least she gets to experience them, not some other person, not some other random person in a home. And it's tough, but it's worth it.
Yeah. Dude, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, my wife's grandma, she's in a nursing home, and I see that, like, I guess that's a little different because, she can't live on her own and all that. But to see those people in the nursing home, I'm sure you've been to a nursing home before, and you just see these old people that are just sitting there by themselves. But that's cool. Like you said, just the moments, right? Even the tough ones. So
Yeah.
I think that's the hard days make the good days better, but they're necessary. And yeah, man, that's tough.
It's learning, it's growing, it's everything. Those times where I fucked up on a job site, same as you, versus the bad times you have with another person, makes the good times that much better.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what's so beautiful. The bad times and the good times. It's what's like if we were, what do they say? If it's flatline, you're probably dead.
Yeah.
You have to have those ups and downs.
Well,
But
it helps you appreciate. I think it helps you appreciate the good times that much more. You know what I mean? Like, everybody has their struggles. Yeah. And life's not meant to be perfect, but I think that's the biggest thing is I kind of mentioned it earlier, like, take care of your own. And I don't mean that in like a selfish, prideful way. Like, I really mean like the people that are in your care, right? You just really, neighbors, people that you just come in contact with, just really try to be the example, kind of like Mike talked about. I feel like I've talked about Mike every single episode, dude, since he came on.
Honestly, he's a great. Keep doing it. Like, I need some more exposure because he's only got a handful of followers, and that's a shame because that guy has a lot to share.
Dude, just
years
of experience and the realness. And, I commented that today, dude. Like, it's always real. It's always just like genuine. And I think that's what makes, when people come on this podcast and they share their story, just like you talking about your mother-in-law, you got like emotional about it, right? Like, it's because it's from the heart, and it's something that, you see your wife struggle with that and your mother-in-law. And it's like, man, it kind of puts a different meaning on, hey, work sucked balls today. It sucked to go to work today, but you know what? There's a reason I did it. So that's really cool, man.
Yeah. What's the why that wakes you up in the morning?
Yeah.
I think that's probably the tougher part when you're younger. You don't have a why. It's just, why am I doing this? Versus, this is why. It's that much easier. I take the morning shift to take care of my mother-in-law, or the morning caregiver gets here, and then my wife will take over the night shift. So we kind of planned it out, but it's just something we do till I die.
Yeah.
And that's just whatever the reason I've been put on this world. Whether I'm a protector, whether I'm a provider, whether it is, I'll just form to that. This is the family I started. This is the family I'm going to finish with.
Dude, there's one question, I always end, this, I always end with this question with everybody, because I feel like we talk about it the whole episode, and then everybody always condenses it, and it just, in some profound way or even a different way. But, I guess just in closing, what's one thing that you wish you could have told yourself at 18 or 15 when you were a kid? Or what's some advice that you would give somebody that's probably in your shoes or could be in your shoes right now?
When I was younger, there was a quote that always stuck in my head. It was, nobody knows anything, everyone's playing pretend, and me and my wife decided to modify that quote to simply, somebody knows something. Somebody out there is going through the same problems you are, the same, whether it's mentally, whether it's with my mother-in-law, whether it's a simple problem at work. Somebody knows something. You just have to ask. That's all it is. Put your ego aside and just ask. Because man, you look dumber if you don't. Look dumb, a lot dumber with not knowing. Because I don't know is an answer. I don't know is the answer. It's the admittance. Because eventually, by the end of that admittance, you'll know something, and that's how you grow. That's how you learn. That's what I wish I would have told myself when I was as a younger person.
That's awesome, dude. Thank you so much for coming on. I just like that, man. Like the humility that you have and that you've emulated through this whole episode. I really appreciate, and I appreciate you taking some time to come on the podcast, man. I really do. And for people that haven't heard of Tierra Oso, go look them up. I'll share a bunch of stuff, put them in my story. I'll share a link to the website too. Just tierraososhop.com. And that's TIERRAOSO. And if you don't know how to spell shop, you probably don't have the internet. So don't worry about it. But go look him up, man. He makes some really cool stuff. But you have anything else you want to say, dude? Just in closing?
I reached out to you guys. Thank you for having me on the podcast. It was awesome. This is actually my first podcast, so thank you. I don't know how I did, but I got to get comfortable talking to people. But thank you so much for having me and throwing my name out there. You definitely got another listener, especially for Mike. So thank you. And I can't wait till this releases, and can't wait to hear the next podcast that you release as well.
Dude, no, you did awesome, man. Seriously, I appreciate it. And seriously, guys, check him out. Tierra Oso. He's doing something cool down in El Paso, Texas. So give him a follow. But with that being said, guys, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.